Welcome back to Le Mans. Our coverage continues on British Eurosport and Eurosport International as Audi, quite incredibly, lie first, second and third with an hour and 48 minutes of the race remaining. Of the four Peugeot that started this race, just one remains. Loic Duval in the Orica Run car in fourth place. Our best P2 car is the Straka Racing HPD Acura. That is lying seventh, ahead of the Oak Racing Pescarolo Judd and the Lola HPD of RML. In GT2, the lead battle is now for 13th overall, knocking on the door of the top 10. Mark Lieb for Porsche leading after Corvette's challenge faltered, and in GT1, the Celine of Julien Canal and his colleagues has now crept up into 15th position. So remarkable rate of attrition through the night. After 10 hours, we still had 44 of our 55 starters. We're now down to 30 cars remaining from 55. And as ever, having run relatively freely through the night, when the sun came up, suddenly all those overworked cars seemed to fall by the wayside. Well, now, it's been a remarkable race in terms of twists of fate, but also, particularly through some of the classes early on, a really close battle. GT2 was a really massive epic for quite a while. And we've been joined here by Jill Campbell from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, who's an old friend. And Jill, you've just seen the last of the American Le Mans Series races at your circuit a couple of weeks ago, and I think Le Mans has sort of reflected the way that the class battles have been going over in the States this year as well. It's all very close.
Oh, most certainly. I think that we are seeing some of the best racing that we've seen in many, many years. The GT battle at Laguna Seca was amazing. You know, it was like everybody wanted to win the GT class, and certainly the prototypes were out there doing their job, but the GT race was something spectacular to watch.
It's funny, isn't it? You know, we're in a period of really severe economic straits for car manufacturers and for fans and for everybody else involved with motor racing, and yet sports car racing seems to be having, you know, another breath. There's an increasing interest. I mean, more manufacturers than ever perhaps in the GT classes, and even the prototype fields with the LMP2 customer cars looking really competitive. So people still are managing to find the money to go and put on the table to go racing.
This is a tremendous platform for manufacturers for research and development. You know, going back to the old days of race today, buy tomorrow. This certainly works, and I think, like you say, seeing new teams coming in, and certainly, you know, it's a thrill for me to be able to come from America to Le Mans and see these teams racing here and doing their very best. It's a wonderful opportunity for manufacturers to show their stuff.
Well, we've had a number of Le Mans virgins up in the booth this week, and we always sort of feel that we're converting people when they come here for the first time, because everybody knows of Le Mans and everybody sort of has an idea of Le Mans, and if you've watched the TV broadcast, you've probably got a reasonably good idea of what the race is about, but there's an awful lot more, and we always ask, you know, are you going to walk away and never come back again? What about you?
Oh my goodness, I think that, you know, unless you experience this, you really have no idea as to the true essence of Le Mans. I'm going to take some of this home.
I know. Well, if you could bottle it, it would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
It would.
We're going to have a quick word with Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich of Audi in just a moment, so stay with us there for a second, Jill. Loic Duval in the Orica Peugeot, incidentally, now on a real rip. He's down below the 320s. Fastest lap we've seen from a Peugeot or an Audi in the entire race has been a 3:21 that the number one car of Anthony Davidson was doing in the middle of the night. Loic Duval now down 3:19.7. I don't recall exactly what pole position was, but he's going very nearly as quick as that. Now then, let's have a word with Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich.
Dr. Ulrich, less than 2 hours to go and 3 cars in the front of the race.
Yeah, this looks nice at present, but the race is over at 3 o'clock. And we have made enough experience of being very cautious with that. So before it's 3 o'clock, you never can be sure.
After the qualify, everyone was saying, yeah, Audi seems really calm about the performance of Peugeot, and now we see that Peugeot had so many problems. That was a good strategy about Audi.
I mean, we pushed very much on efficiency and on a car that we had developed nicely through a year. and that we have been sure that we have our preparation done well. At the end, you see it in the race, and for sure there is another 2 hours to go. Until now, it looked from the technical side quite smooth, but I don't want to comment this because it's maybe a bad sign. So I'm looking forward to the next 2 hours to pass, and hopefully we are there where we wanted to be at 3 o'clock.
A more personal question, when do you sleep?
Not on Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you heard that. I'm afraid we didn't get a single word of it, so hopefully Dr. Ulrich was feeling a little more relaxed than he was early on when he went off to remonstrate severely with Charlie Lamb at Schnitzer. Incidentally, Loic Duval's 3:19.732 last lap, 21 thousandths off pole position, so the pace really picking up. And as you saw, Olivier Canel stepping down off the pit wall, looking here at our GT Corvette, the battle for second place. The Aston Martin, young drivers Aston and Peter Cox in second place. Peter Cox driving that car at the moment, 4 minutes ahead of the Alfa Ventura Corvette with Jerome Policon at the wheel. And for that car now, carrying the team's banner, looks like survival of the fittest is going to be their prime concern. And welcoming back Jeremy Shaw onto Eurosports Airways for the rest of the morning, and with us is Jill Campbell from Master Raceway Laguna Seca as well. And Jill, listening on the radio to the 6 hours at Master Raceway the other week, it did seem that pretty much like here at Le Mans, it was, for a 6-hour race, it had all the hallmarks of being a 10-lap sprint. It was a real bare-knuckle fight all the way through.
It was survival of the fittest every step of the way. And you watch these drivers, you know, who have to hold their concentration for so long, for such a long period of time. It just amazes me. It's no wonder there's so much passion about it over here.
Well, that's right, and so much emotion as well. Don't forget, all the teams have already been up, well, way over 24 hours, 36 hours and counting now. They will all have been in the circuit around 6 or 7 o'clock Saturday morning after, for a lot of them, a fairly long and trying week. I mean, some teams had major rebuilds each day, during the day, overnighters starting on Monday night and Tuesday night and so on. So some of them are utterly wrung out before the race even starts, which is hardly what you'd call ideal. But on the other hand, it is what it is. You've got to fight this thing. It is a little bit, Jeremy, like wrestling an alligator, really. You know, if you take your hand off its snout, then you know you're a goner. So you've just got to keep in the battle until one of you gives up.
Yeah, the best drug in the world, adrenaline. Nice and natural, love it.
Indeed.
Yeah, so you were just talking, weren't you, about that fastest lap set a moment or two ago by Loic Duval, and the fastest lap of the race so far, Lewis Haldane was talking about a while ago, the fact that all three drivers in car number one set lap times within the 3 minutes 19 range, and I think you said that Sebastian Bourdais' pole was a 3 minutes 19.7. Well, the fastest lap of the race so far, a 3:19.241. We're not going to see him really going fast on that. Well, 3:19.241, which I think was Anthony Davidson, and that compares to the track record here of 3:19.394, so a tenth of a second or more quicker. Anthony Davidson has gone than did Stefan Sarrazin 2 years ago, and there's been a lot of restrictions put on these diesel cars since then.
Well, again, I think it shows the phenomenal step forward that Peugeot have made with the evolution of this car. Really very quick indeed this year.
Yeah, the race pace this year 5 seconds quicker than just 1 year ago, and that's despite some restrictions, as you say. A huge amount developed on the cars, but the tyres too. I think perhaps we've underestimated that a little bit through this event, because Michelin has put a lot of effort into developing these cars, particularly in conjunction, let's not forget, with the Peugeot team.
We're looking at the gap on the road between the Audi and the Peugeot. I think that's what the director is looking for here. Dindo Capello now at the wheel of car number 7. You saw him going through shot. There is Loic Duval behind him, and that's what that gap looks like. At the line last time, 32.7 seconds. Dindo, of course, on his out lap. And Loic Duval really flying at speed. That means they're on a slightly different strategy. And that may come into play later on. Don't forget, we've got an hour and 40 minutes, which means they will all need at least a fuel stop from now to the end of the race, because they're doing around a 50-minute, 45-minute stint. But that means that depending on how it cycles, that third place might be entirely subject to a second stop for possibly one, possibly both of the cars. There is Dindo Capello in the car he shares with Tom Christensen and Alan McNish, and barring an incident with the BMW ARC car, perhaps they might have been, well, that very likely they would have been at the top of the Audi pile, because they were, and Tom could have added to his phenomenal run of Le Mans wins here. Loic Duval, though, pushing very hard indeed. Now, we heard from Hugues de Schonack that his instructions to the team are just to give everything, to treat it as a 10-lapper or as a qualifying run, and leave absolutely nothing, to take every chance possible, to take every risk, and just to flail the car until it either wins or gives up.
And the drivers of this number 7 car, on which we were on board, have of course 13 Le Mans 24-hour victories, overall victories between them. It's absolutely astonishing.
And that's before we start getting the Sebring and Petit Le Mans and all the other wins.
Right.
And they've got a really starry driver lineup. And the gap now down from 32 to 26 seconds on that last lap between third and fourth. Excuse me, 326.6 for Dindo Capello, a 320.2. So 6.4 seconds quicker on that lap, Loic Duval. And that is starting to show us perhaps what Peugeot have really got. You know, they can do 19s and 20s on this track almost at will.
In the last 50 minutes, that gap has exactly halved. It was 52 seconds 50 minutes ago, now down to 26 seconds.
Well, at that rate, he has got time. Has he got enough staying power in the Peugeot to do it? We'll find out. Stay with us, live at Le Mans. Welcome back live to Le Mans, where Audi lie first, second and third. This is the third place car of Dindo Capello that he shares with Alan McNish and Tom Christensen, multiple race winning team. In third place, being caught fast by the only remaining Peugeot of Loic Duval, and there's its team boss. Hugues de Schonack knows they're in a race against time and against this capricious race. Le Mans is, without any doubt, with no disrespect to everybody in the booth, it is without doubt female, because it is so demanding and so difficult, and yet also so rewarding if you get it right. Jill Campbell, do you think that's a fair assessment?
That's pretty good, actually. You got it right.
I think so. It is so rewarding, but it is a really cruel mistress. Look, the gap now down from first to second, the high fives there, down to 23.9 seconds, but Capello responds. Loic Duval only taking 2 seconds out of him this lap. Now, Jill, very quickly before we get back to the race, we're talking about ALMS at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and of course you've got the Monterey Historics coming up. It's been a tough time for circuit owners, particularly Mazda Raceway, because you don't own the facility, you administer the facility, and so you've got to, your money comes from gate, so you've got to be good at the promotion. All right, so we'll get back to that in just a moment. We're going to have a quick word with Nico Lapierre. Hopefully we'll be able to hear it this time, and hopefully you will as well. Hugues de Schonack still deep in thought as the Peugeot team try and salvage something from Le Mans.
Nicolas Lapierre, il y a 1 heure et 34 minutes qui restent.
Nico, there's an hour and 34 minutes left.
Pit stop reste pour Ricard.
How many pits have you got to make?
Ça va être juste. Et Audi va
avoir
un
two
pit
for
stop
Orica.
et un splash. Donc,
and Audi, I think, will make one pit stop.
Maintenant, Loic est en train de faire vraiment
So they'll spend about 30 seconds less in the pit than we will. So hopefully the last stint will go well. Well, okay. Well, that answers the questions that we were asking then. One more stop for Audi, Peugeot reckon, but 2 for them. So Loic Duval must make the pass once, stop for fuel, and then make it again. Car number 52 going slowly at the moment, and that is the young driver Aston Martin, as you saw there, Christopher Nygaard, Thomas Enger and Peter Cox, and that car was in second place in the GT1 class. Well, again, Jill, talking about getting gate in, of course, the ALMS races is always big. big, motorcycle racing is always big, and I know MotoGP was a great addition to your calendar, but the Monterey Historics is one of the things that everybody thinks of when you talk about Pebble Beach and Mazda Raceway, all in that same breath, and presumably that's another big focus for your season.
Oh, it's huge, and as you said, you know, you listed all of our big events, and the Monterey Historics this year being renamed to the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion after 36 years, and it's taking on a new dawn, a new era. We have a record number of entries this year, is 638 very classic sports car racing vehicles will be on the track. And as you said, we're a non-profit organisation, so these events are very important, and getting fans like you have here at Le Mans to circuits like, you know, Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca are very, very important. The fans here, you know, have gone through an endurance race in themselves, I think, so I'll take some of them home with me too.
All right, I think that's a great idea. Well, listen, we wish you the very best. It's just a delight to see you here, so let's hope you get a chance to come back and join us at Le Mans again for many more years to come. Jill Campbell from Mazda Raceway, thank you very much. And Jeremy Shaw, a fabulous race. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, you haven't got a headset on. Chris Parsons, a fabulous race unfolding in front of our eyes, or is it unraveling in front of our eyes? Because all of the strong teams seem to be really struggling here, perhaps with the exception of the most experienced of them all, Audi.
Well, and Oreca, they seem to be doing an extremely good job with Loic Duval just having set a faster sector time. Yep. You see on our screens.
Fastest in the third sector again of the entire race. Doesn't seem to be able to do it in sector 1 and 2, but sector 3, the Porsche curves, he's getting even better now. 3:19.07. And so we are within a whisker of getting into the 3:18s. Bearing in mind, he's running low on fuel now, so he'll be in those really fast laps. Now let's get down to the pit lane again, see if we can catch up with Pedro Lamy.
Pedro Lamy, 90 minutes left in this race. I think this is not the place where you wanted to watch it from.
Well, for us it's very difficult. I mean, in my car we stopped too early, and the car number 2 and number 1 they had failures and with the engine, and they had to stop as well. So Peugeot Sport this year are very sad. The team worked very hard for that, did a very good job. The car was very good, but that's racing, you know. I mean, the team now has to start working, has been starting already for the future, but now it's time to think what was wrong and if we can avoid.
The car was in its 4th year. Usually reliability shouldn't be a problem in this stage, but is it the whole rule change that brought the problems for Peugeot?
Maybe a bit, and you know, I'm not sure, but when you have a car that you don't push for the limit, maybe it doesn't break. So we had a car that we had to go on the limits in every aspect. Maybe that's the reason the car become a bit more fragile. I don't know.
Where do you go from here for next year?
Next year, what? If I come back here, I hope I stay with Peugeot. We will see. I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I think we're hearing Pedro Lamy echo the words we were maybe saying earlier that we thought might have been the case, pushing those Peugeots so hard that perhaps they push them beyond the levels of the reliability. You just don't really know. 3:19.0 though for Loic Duval, and we saw the team punching the air and clapping when they saw that time come up. An incredible time, absolutely smashing the record and the qualifying time, and I think we could be seeing a time in 3:18 soon.
Yeah, I don't think that's far away. Lap record is 3:18.5, and the race record lap, is 3:19.3. So he's inside the all-time record for a race, and that means the track record will have been Stefan Sarrazan's fastest ever pole time. It's half a second away. Liz, the way things are going, I don't think that's necessarily out of the question. It's Quite remarkable. Now, Chris, you were thinking about various parts of the tyre battle. Of course, our tyre battle out front in the P1 class is a pair of Michelin-based teams, and of course, Michelin with Pirelli both looking at potentially being Formula One suppliers next year as well.
And one of the things that Michelin were looking at taking into Formula One was sports car sizes, and one wonders whether they might therefore have pushed development on sports car tyres further.
Yeah, that might have to bring sports car type excitement to Formula One. Yeah. We certainly wouldn't want any of that. We'll be back in just a moment. Cynics are us. Welcome back live to Le Mans as the Grand Prix drivers Ferrari makes what is likely to be its final stop, you would think. Oh no, hour and 26, Jeremy Shaw, no. I think they'll owe us one as well, won't they?
Yeah, they will, I think. And I thought they changed drivers last time, because I saw Giancarlo Fisichella walking back to his garage area through the paddock about 45 minutes ago, if that. And very impressed I was. I mean, he was quite happy stopping and signing autographs, taking pictures with young children and things, having just got out of the car, having been up for goodness knows how long. Class act, Fizzy. So the car's still running strongly. They were certainly in contention to win this fabulous GT2 class. They've had some problems, however, in the last 6 hours of the race.
Yeah, so they currently lie. Oh, I'm struggling to find them on the screen now. Dear goodness me, yes, they're 4th in GT2. Now, do you remember, Jeremy, yesterday evening we stood chatting to Richard Westbrook in the paddock, and he was complaining how the race engine they put into that BMS Scuderia Italia Porsche couldn't pull it itself out of its own way and was flatter than a flat thing. Yet, because they did what they expected to do, which was just sit in the car until it either broke or saw the checkered flag, the attrition in GT2 has been high enough, and they have picked up pace well enough, maybe as the engine loosened up, that they are now in 3rd place in GT2. And I tell you what, if you had said, I guarantee you'll be on the podium tomorrow, to Richard Westbrook, he would have laughed in your face yesterday. He was up for the race, but he certainly wasn't expecting the engine to be able to do anything in terms of pace. But it's not always fast that wins this race, Liz Halliday. It's not always most rehearsal that wins this race. It's something in between.
Well, we were talking about this just a minute ago between ourselves about how Peugeot's done so much practice around the Paul Ricard circuit, but Paul Ricard is not a partial road, partial purpose-built racetrack. And what we mean by that is, these cars are having to drive on the actual Mulsanne Straight, which is a public road, all the rest of the time, even between practice sessions. And you don't see it on the TV, but it is very bumpy. And actually, even just crossing over the white dividing line of the circuit bottoms out these cars. As a driver, you have to come onto the straight and actually pick your crossover point. We can see some of the bumps in the other portions of the circuit that are hitting the cars as they come into the S's. There's a huge bump there. I don't think they would have found that anywhere else but here, really. And I think the only other place that you could do a proper test to really prepare yourself for Le Mans would be Sebring, in my opinion.
Well, the other thing, Jeremy, is think back to the beginning of the race, the battle for 4th place with this Orica car and Alan McNish behind. If you were doing a 24-hour simulation and 2 of your cars started off at each other like that, the first thing that happened is the radio would crackle into life and go, come on, let's not mess around, we've got to be serious. When you go simulating, you're testing the componentry, but what you're not doing is putting it to the ultimate test, and there is still no more ultimate a test than racing at Le Mans. What it was designed to do 81 editions ago, back in the 1920s, nearly a century ago, it's still doing. Testing cars to their absolute ultimate.
You're absolutely right, both of you, because Liz was talking there about the benefits of testing at Sebring. Okay, Sebring isn't as fast as Le Mans. It is a fast circuit. It's not as quick as it used to be, but it's still a quick track, and it's very, very bumpy. It is a real test of man and machine there, so it is a great warm-up for the Le Mans 24 Hours. We've seen many teams in the past shaking their cars down there, just preparing themselves for Le Mans. It's kind of ironic, isn't it, that this year Peugeot they went to Sebring and Audi did not, and yet it's worked out to be the other way around this weekend at Le Mans.
Hugues de Schoenack in pit road, waiting for Peugeot number 4, driven by Loic Duval. This is the car that Loic is chasing. He is he was 11.4 seconds behind at the beginning of the lap, behind car number 7, driven by Dindo Capello. Dindo did the 3:25 to a 3:21 of Loic Duval last time, which means he will almost see the Audi in places on this lap. it'll be almost in vision before he gets out of the corner. He just gets a sight of him. Now, suddenly, if he was doing 3:20s and 3:19s before, he's found half a second or a second a lap in pace just by being able to see him. Loic Duval is now going to hunt him right down, but with Hugues de Schonack in the pit road, chances are he's going to get right behind him on these last wisps of fuel, then have to dive in for the first of what we've been told will have to be 2 pit stops before the end for this Peugeot. So it's, I mean, you need a slide rule and a mind like a trap, and who's got one of those? I mean, a slide rule in these days, but after all this time, who's got a mind that can do that? Hopefully on the pit walls, everybody still has got a brain like a processor, because, boy, they're going to need to make sure they don't put more than a kilo extra fuel in than they need, otherwise that might lose them a podium, Liz.
Well, right now, this is going to come down to is the pit stop, and I can tell you right now that Hugues de Schonack is telling his team, this needs to be hot, boys. This needs to be the best pit stop you've ever done in your entire life. It needs to be clean, it needs to be perfect, it needs to be fast. And if they screw that up, then all the work that Loic Duval has just done, and he's just done another fastest sector time, will be in the pan, and it won't mean anything. So it's going to be really exciting to watch the pit stop they're about to pull off.
You know, they'll probably in the back of the, you know, when you see them in American football in the locker room, helmeted up, suited up, banging heads on the locker.
One of those.
Get that adrenaline going. Oh boy, because, you know, you want to be calm, but that adrenaline, it's what it does to your brain, Jeremy. You know, Loic Duval's driving a car in a way that he couldn't have driven it in qualifying, just because the adrenaline, look at that, the adrenaline pump is so massive that the Audi drops out of sight, and he must be pulling the steering wheel towards him with his fingertips. Come on, closer, closer, come on baby, let's do this thing.
He's really taking full advantage of this low fuel tank run here towards the end of the stint. I reckon he's probably going to be in this lap around for car number 4 with Loic Duval at the wheel. The interesting thing is going to be, will he change tyres? You're right, they're doing about 45 minutes between pit stops, so they will have to make one more almost full stop before the end of this race.
Right, before we get to the pits then, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be back live with more action from Le Mans in just a second. Welcome back live to Le Mans as the number 4 Peugeot has made the first of what we believe will have to be 2 stops. And if ever there was a team fired up for a pit stop, Liz Halliday, with the chase they've got on to salvage something for Peugeot, to be the team that get on the podium, you know that those mechanics are, exactly as you said earlier, doing the best pit stop they have ever done, maybe ever will do in their lives.
They would have been so pumped before that. They would have been, you know, whacking each other on the back going, right boys, this is what we practiced for, this is it, let's do it. And I think they've done it. I think they've done a really good stop, and we're going to have to see. He's gone straight out and done a fastest sector time again, I think, hasn't he?
Absolutely. Now, we were just saying Andre Lotterer coming into the pit road. This is him. He's about to bail out. This Audi in second place. Timo Bernhardt still leads in Audi number 9. Audi number 8 in second place. So Lotterer, Marcel Fassler and Benoit Treluyer, they are the trio. So driver change, he'll get fresh tyres. Hour and 16, they'll have to splash and top up before the end of the race, and that's something that crew chief there at the nose of the car, Brad Kettler, will be way familiar with. Of course, for many years the crew chief, a champion in the American Le Mans Series before joining this Yost lineup for the Audi Sport North America team. And of course, you know, for Audi North America, for their car potentially to be the car that wins it, the number 9 car, that's going to be a huge boost for them as well, with Mike Rockefeller, Timo Bernhardt and Romain Dumas. So Andre Lotterer about to get on his way, and not Andrew Lotterer, he's just got out.
And that was a quick stop. That was very quick.
Very quick, very smooth, as you would expect, because, you know, Audi have been doing this for over a decade, so they are pretty well rehearsed in the demands of Le Mans.
So both of those 2 cars are going to have to make one more fuel stop, which will be about a bit over 2/3 of a tank of fuel. The car number 7, with which Loic Duval is effectively battling for the final podium position, is Dindo Capello at the wheel right now. He's going to have to make another pit stop pretty shortly. 365, probably about another 4 laps, I would reckon, before we see car number 7 onto pit lane. And there is Dindo Capella pushing as hard as he possibly can. He knows his final stop is going to be shorter than the Peugeot. That is certainly going to play into his advantage with this very restricted fuel flow on the refueling system.
Well, his stop will be shorter than Peugeot's last stop, and that's a drama for the Peugeot team. And the third engine has gone.
Oh no.
Well, I was just about to say, looking at Olivier Canel, he knows the highs and lows of this race, but unbelievably now it's Hugues de Schonack who is in floods of tears, just as Olivier Canel was. And again, the only car that Peugeot have not lost with an engine failure was the Sébastien Bourdais car, which went out with a suspension element tearing out of the tub. Car number 3 was a break in the tub. The other 3 have been let down by this new, fast, powerful and relentlessly tried and tested Peugeot engine. And from the elation last year for Peugeot of winning at Le Mans, the heartache and heartbreak, the other side of the coin.
Absolutely inconsolable, I think.
An hour ago he was consoling Olivier Canel. Now it is Hugues de Schonack himself who feels that bitter, bitter gall, because there is just nothing you can do. We heard from him earlier. He said to Loic Duval, leave nothing, give it everything, take every chance. And there, but for an hour and 13 minutes,
all but nothing.
On the podium.
That's what it was.
That's exactly what happens when you're trying to run a sprint race at the end of a 24-hour race. I mean, you're pushing everything to the absolute ultimate. I mean, the test races that they do, the test simulations, they're not pushing this hard, are they, Liz Halliday?
No, I mean, and they're not going to be pushing in these conditions either. I mean, you absolutely cannot simulate a race condition, you know, in these sort of situations. No matter what you tell the drivers, no matter what you try, you are not in the race, and I don't think you can ever simulate that. No. And Peugeot has proved that today, and I do feel for them. It's just awful. It's not the way you want to see this. An hour and 13 minutes from the end of the race, but we can give Loic Duval a big clap, because my word, what a performance.
He comes away with a new race lap record, a new fastest lap, which is absolutely remarkable as we see that race leader onto the pit lane. But you know, it's been remarkable to me to see them turn laps faster than qualifying at the end of a 24-hour race. You've got to be kidding me. Have we ever seen that before? I mean, you know, these races are run at a vastly superior pace than they were 5 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, they were cruising for most of the race just to make sure they got to the end. Nothing like that here.
Yes, in those days, I mean, you think about the great qualifying laps, and in those days, qualifying was something really special. Low fuel, soft tyres. The race was all about survival. Now, Liz, in 23 hours, we're going faster than we ever did in practice. I mean, it's almost unbelievable that it's possible to do with a race car.
And we've been lucky here. We've had cool conditions, so this has actually been possible, and we've seen such an incredible performance today. I mean, we have to take that away and give that to Peugeot. What we've seen today is a true performance of skill and speed, and unfortunately not reliability. I think we're going to go to the pits and get an interview with Hugues de Schonack of that last remaining number 4 Peugeot, and this is just such a tragedy for them today.
Yeah, you can understand the emotion of Hugues. I mean, he's a class act, number 1. He's been around the sport an awful long time. He is French to the core, but he's also got just a full knowledge of motorsport and the international ramifications of an event such as this.
Well, he's such a sportsman as well. You know, one of the most amiable people you can choose to meet. So this is going to be really tough for Hugues to gather himself together.
Hugues de Schonack, un moment terrible pour vous.
Oui, c'est
terrible parce qu'on
peut pas penser.
Yeah, terrible, because we never thought that Peugeot, all 4, could possibly retire from the race, and for the same reason for 3 of them. The pressure here, the speed here has been incredible, but the preparation Peugeot put in was just astonishing. And Hugues saying an hour from the finish, it's almost unacceptable that it ends this way. I think Peugeot have done a phenomenal job. They've worked so hard to come back after last year and to make so many big improvements. Four Peugeots came here, and to have none of them on the track at the end really hurts. This is almost impossible to accept it. It's such a huge disappointment for us. We were on the podium, our car. The gap got cut back down. We were chasing again to try and get back into the podium, just a few seconds away. We did what we had to do. We gave everything. And if life was a little fairer, maybe we would have ended up on the podium as well. Peugeot should have got something more than this for all their effort. It is really cruel. Yes, it is really cruel. And I think that's actually a fair comment. You know, for all the effort they put in, for all the entertainment they provided alone, Peugeot deserve to take something away from this. Well, they've got a lap record, but in the end, they won't care too much about that. What they wanted was a team on the podium in amongst the Audis, if nothing else.
And I think if you'd asked somebody to predict what this race would bring us, I don't think anybody could have done it. You just never would have imagined having all four Peugeots out, three of them out for the same engine failure. This is just absolute disaster, and I do truly feel for them. I think it's just horrible because they've worked so hard. What a tragedy today.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, but, yeah, on the other hand, we were talking about a 1-2-3 for the factory team, weren't we? All the way going up into the race, we were thinking, however, the factory Peugeot team, not the factory Audi team.
After practice, it was impossible for us or Audi almost to even see how they would get onto the podium. I mean, in the first minutes of the race, they were being left behind by all of the Peugeots, and it just looked as though that was never going to change. But the guillotine has fallen, I'm afraid, and Peugeot are all done here. Audi 1, 2, 3, incredibly. Welcome back to Le Mans, where I think you may be needing the hankies actually at the end of this, because it's always an emotional thing to get to the end of Le Mans, Liz Halliday, whether it's win, lose or draw, because everybody is so tired. Olivier Canal of Peugeot Sport and Hugues de Schoenack embracing each other. Their dreams have come crumbling down since the night time, where they lost Sébastien Bourdais, Pedro Lamy and Simon Pagenaud's car early on, the number 3 car, with a suspension failure. They have now lost their remaining 3 cars, all with identical engine failures, all the right-hand bank of cylinders, all very shortly after a pit stop, as I recall. So there is a common element, I'm sure they will find to that, and whatever else happens, whether it's heat sink in the turbo or something else, that fact about being red hot, stopping and then being flailed to within an inch of its life again, something is a common factor. I'm sure they'll find it and come back stronger for next time.
Well, I think the reality of it is we will probably never know, because they're not going to tell us the ins and outs of what have happened.
But they will know, and that's what matters.
Certainly, it's such an emotional experience going through the 24 hours of Le Mans with the team, for the drivers and the team, especially this close to the end and being at the front. So we're just seeing the incredible emotion coming through these teams. Just such a hardship to accept the fact that 3 cars could fail the exact same way, and they never could have imagined this would happen to them. And I truly feel for them. You know, I know what it's like to drive here and to be a part of it, and it's just so awful when it goes wrong.
You can see the explosion, the outlet of emotion there, Jeremy Shaw, when it finally is released there for de Schoenack and earlier for Olivier Canal. Now imagine the emotions in the number 9 Audi, in the Audi Sport North America car. Mike Rockenfeller, Timo Bernhardt and Romain Dumas hoping against hope, praying against praying, an hour and 4 minutes and 36 seconds until time is up and they get to the flag. And the pent-up emotions then, I mean, they're just going to be like an absolute pressure cooker waiting to go off. It's just going to be a remarkable achievement if they manage to win this race.
Indeed, sir. We learned, haven't we, already not to count any chickens.
Oh, my word, yes.
But you know, each of those 3 guys in that car, Mike Rockenfeller, Timo Bernhardt and Romain Dumas, they haven't stood on the podium at Le Mans. Rockenfeller and Bernhardt both got GT class victories here. Romain Dumas has been on the podium here, 3rd overall for the Pescarolo team in 07, but to make that step from just the kind of the podium to the top step is a huge step.
And a trio of first-time winners. Our race, third-place car, Dindo Capello on pit lane. Danny Watts there, the LMP2 leader in the Straka Racing Acura HPD, taking it very easily away because, of course, the Highcroft car that was their rival for so long in the race has succumbed pretty much to overheating problems. And Straka are going to try and get the car out at the end of the race, but they really can't run it for more than 2 or 3 laps, Marino Franchitti was saying earlier. Now let's get back down to the pit lane and catch up with more news.
Olivier Panis, c'est un moment terrible pour vous.
Terrible moment, Olivier. Yeah, absolutely, for the whole team, really, of course, for the drivers, for the mechanics, designers and everything. We've done our best. We knew we had a car that could win this race. We've given everything we could, and this is really cruel. It's a really tough race when it goes badly for you. But Peugeot have done a fantastic job. We couldn't have asked them for anything else. You know, the magic of Le Mans is when it happens for you, but now we're all very disappointed. We're going to try and come back and revanche, not quite revenge, but yeah, come back next week, next year, and try and do it all again. Although next week, actually, we're talking a little bit earlier, and there's a lot of teams who would like to come back and have another go next week, because a year is a very long time when you've faced the disappointment of either, well, from Autocon and Mike Lewis's point, failing on the first lap, or possibly potentially failing on the last lap. You know, it's as heartbreaking with all that preparation that goes into it for 12 months either way.
It's hard to decide which is actually worse and or better, to be honest. I mean, both are horrible for different reasons. But interestingly, what we've seen, the minute that failure happened in the Peugeot car, the Audis backed their times down just a little bit. I think they all took a huge sigh of relief and went, now we can look after these cars and bring them home, because the next car who would stand to benefit from any failure in Audi would be that Lola Aston Martin, currently driven by Sam Hancock, who's done a fantastic job in this car. They're currently lying in 4th place in LMP1, which is brilliant for the petrol cars to have pushed through so many diesels. We never thought this was the case. We thought it'd be a battle for 8th place, but they've definitely reined it up there, and they're far enough away from the Audis that there isn't a panic in the Audi camp. And I think they're just, the plan now is going to be look after the cars, because we have lost so many LMP1 cars in this race.
Our race leader Timo Bernhardt has now completed 380 laps, and you know, so what? But Jeremy, actually, so what is quite a lot, and the fact that he is now 2 laps away from the all-time distance record set by Peugeot 2 years ago in 2009, last year rather, in 2009, yes, is quite remarkable, because we've still got an hour of racing to go, and they're not going to just creep round, you know, and do 1 lap in the next hour, are they? So they're going to bust it wide open.
They are indeed, by a goodly margin, probably by sort of 12, 13, 14 laps, which is absolutely amazing. Okay, last year, yeah, there was some fairly inclement weather, particularly on Sunday morning, so that slowed down the pace somewhat. And we had, what, 3 pace car periods, I think, didn't we, yesterday afternoon and evening? And a couple of them were fairly lengthy ones as well. Indeed, I mean, the one for Nigel Mansell was best part of 40 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of others weren't short either. So, I mean, it just, again, it brings it home, hammers it home, the pace that these guys have been running. We've heard some sort of criticism, yeah, maybe the Peugeots weren't pushing hard yesterday afternoon. Well, they were. We heard Sebastian, we sort of decried Sebastian Bourdais. We said, yeah, we're driving flat out here. Well, I think they were. I mean, the lap times when he was talking, we were looking at them, they were sort of 3-minute 24s or so, but they'd be down in the 22s and 21s even before that. And, you know, it was a shame that the race was kind of broken open by that first safety car period, because it didn't really show how close the Audis could have gotten to the Peugeots, because there was a safety car between them, so they were immediately split by a third of this lap.
Well, I think they were definitely pushing hard straight away, but maybe not hanging it out the edge, which is what, and when they get the call, which each one of those cars did at one stage in this race, they got the call to absolutely rag it. And I think when they did that, we started to see the times we did, and that is what saw the end of the Peugeots.
Indeed, and the Audis, yeah, they played it right. I mean, that's probably as fast as their car would go, but this is the sort of pace they wanted to run in any case. Well, so even with that, they've still beaten that distance record by a huge margin.
This is how Reinhold Joest learned to go racing. In the old days of enduring the race, and particularly in the Group C era, of course, in which he was a bit of a master as well, you know, you set your race pace and you stick to it. That's plan A. Plan B, see plan A. There is no variation. No. You've got to be there at hour 23, then you look at what's what and see what you've got left to play with. If it rained and you save some fuel, okay, up with the boost, here we go, let's go for it. If not, we are where we are. Interestingly, Audi at the top of the field, some very interesting stories down the classes, of course. Straka Racing coming here against, well, they're the Le Mans Series front runners in the LMP2 class against the American Le Mans Series front runners in the LMP2 class, Highcroft Racing. Highcroft, of course, first time here at Le Mans, but I mean, a massive battle between those two. Highcroft ended up with problems, perversely, with the HPD part of the package, with the engine is overheating, and they've been sort of blunted a little bit. And Straka, you know, with two pro drivers, and Nick Leventis won't mind you saying, you know, a gentleman driver, you know, to end up winning their class against some very serious opposition in the LMP2 class will be a great reward if they can hang on to it for another hour. In the GT1 class, the Celine now looking as though it's going to claim in its last time at Le Mans its first ever win, which is quite remarkable. And from all the contenders in GT2, Porsche, of course, coming out on top.
Nick Leventis, you're 4 laps ahead, leading the LMP2 category. Now you're carrying the car home.
Well, there's still an hour to go, so a stint, and we reckon about 5 laps also, so it's all to play for, but it's looking pretty good so far.
So, what do you do during this last hour? All the engineers are just listening even more carefully and monitoring even more carefully all the data?
Absolutely, we're monitoring everything really closely, not taking any risks on track, avoiding any incidents, and hopefully we'll be able to bring the car home safe and sound in an hour and a half.
Is it any concern what happened to the car in the garage next to you, to the other Acura?
A little bit, but ideally we want the other car to finish. It would be great to bring both HPDs back. They're having a few problems, but I think they may well get out and be able to finish the race, in which case it's best for all of us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, cheers. Thanks.
Well, Nick never looks like a man who's having a really tough time, but right at the moment he looks like a man who all his dreams are starting to come together. I'm not quite sure what the presentation is here. We're going to take a quick commercial break anyway and be right back with you after this. Stay with us for the end of Le Mans live on Eurosport. And the heartbreak continues. 4th place, Lola Aston Martin, the best of the Gulf cars. Sam Hancock at the wheel, and it is rolling to a halt out on the circuit. This is the run down towards Indianapolis. The right-hand bank of cylinders has had enough and is pouring smoke through. And unfortunately, I don't think Sam is going to be in any condition to get it back to the pit lane. Even if he did, I'm not sure there's very much they can do. And Liz, that's really heartbreaking, isn't it? You know, they are now 53 minutes away from a really great result, and unfortunately it is just trickling away from them. And here's the moment we saw those little puffs of smoke on the straight, and that, I'm afraid, is all you need to know. Once the engine starts burning the oil, she's done.
I'm actually feeling a little bit close to tears at the moment, I have to be honest, because, you know, poor Sam was in the car with me in 2005 when we were leading LMP2, and we had a failure as well, and he's not finished this race for a while, and he's done such a wonderful job in this car. All 3 drivers have, and I just so wanted them to finish 4th. I'm feeling really sad for him right now.
Well, you're not the only one. It's always very emotional at the end of this race, because there are so many good stories, but it's the hard luck stories that really grab your heartstrings.
It's his 5th start here at Le Mans for Sam Hancock. He hasn't yet finished the race, and I'm right with you, because he's not put a wheel wrong. The guys have done a fantastic job, and you know, if you could get it, if only it would limp what you really want that car. If you can just limp it around, get it back to the bits, and just somehow get around to do that final lap. That's what you want it to do.
Lose a gear or something, you know, like Andy Wallace in the Jag, and Jan Lammers driving it home in just 1 gear for a pit stop and you know, an hour and a half. that's all. That's all something. But when the engine goes, there is nothing else left. The car that's now going to take its place, Didier Andre here in Hugues de Schonag's Oreca AIM. This car has been having nightmares of its own. Every time it stops in the pits, they have to take the rear body cover off, and English car drivers will be very familiar with this. Get a long rod and drop it down the side of the engine and bang the starter motor until the solenoid engages to get it going again. Whatever ropey old dog of a car you had when you were a kid, I'm sure you must have done that at some stage. That's how they're getting their car to the end. And for Hugues de Schonag, incredibly, the Peugeot might have gone, but his other car may end up in 4th position as the best of the petrol cars. In fact, will end up in 4th position unless something dramatic happens to it. But for Darren Turner there, taking off his balaclava, and particularly for Sam, for the whole of that Gulf Aston team, feel really, really disappointed. There's no other words for it.
Crushing. And ironically, Didier Andre, those guys in that number 6 car, you share, of course, with Sahir Ayari and Andy Merrick, of course, from the UK. They've had all sorts of problems in this race, but they have kept it going. And with the pace they're going, they're probably just about to complete the same sort of distance that the 009 car has already run. But with the Le Mans regulations, if you're not running at the finish, you're not even classified, which I've always thought is absolutely a ridiculous regulation.
Well, you're not a finisher. It is a list of classified finishers, and I know I can agree that it doesn't give you due respect for the hard work you've put in, but then Le Mans often doesn't, I'm afraid. So
I've just had to have a little quiet moment off air there.
Yeah, no. I think we all going to have a little quiet moment as well. In the pits, incidentally, is our GT2 leader, Mark Lieb, in his Porsche. That 77 Felbermeyer Proton Porsche. And I have to say, of all the times to be in the Le Mans pit lane, I always used to hate this time, going up to people and having to interview them or intrude on their disappointment and their heartbreak. But Sebastian has drawn the short straw today, and he's down with Darren Turner.
Darren Turner, we just saw your car stopping at the side of the track. Do you already know what happened exactly?
No, I haven't spoken to the team yet. Obviously, I'm in the garage, but I need to go and speak to the engineers behind there and just see what's happened. It looks, from what we can see on the telly, that it's an engine drama. It's just so unfortunate that we, done 23 hours and now we get so far, and we have this. It was looking good for a top 4 finish for the car, and considering what the preparation has been for this year for Le Mans, it's been very low key. It was a very good sign, but obviously that's just how it's gone, and we have to come back and try next year.
When you put it in perspective with all the trouble the other car had as well, it was a very tough weekend for the Aston Martins.
Yeah, I know 007 had the gearbox problem during the night, and we've been running absolutely clean the whole way through the race, no dramas, except for, we've had to be careful, we've had to just peg the engine back a little bit, but that started very early in the race. But I'm not sure that would be what accounted for what's happened just now on the circuit. But we ran very reliable here last year, and nothing's really changed. It's just one of those things, unfortunately.
What do you think about? Do you think already about next year with the new regulations, ideally, and a better calibration in between the diesels and the petrol cars?
Well, right now I'm just feeling a bit down and deflated. The rest of the guys have worked so hard here, and the 3 drivers, we're all doing a good job on the circuit, and I need to go away and have a day or 2 just to get over having a result like that taken away. But I'm sure we'll come back next year, and hopefully the regulations will be a bit closer and we can fight the diesels.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, thanks.
Liz, I often wonder what makes you more of a team, or feel more of a team, when you've won something, and thinking of the Straka team, or like that with Aston Martin, when you're all in the depths, whether whether the team spirit is even stronger then than it would be if they managed to get home in 4th place. I'm not really sure, but I think there's no question every single one of them is feeling exactly the same.
Well, I think the team's been through so much. They've been through almost 24 hours. I can't think of anything worse, to be completely honest with you, than having everything go so smoothly and having it all fall to pieces this close to the end. We're just absolutely inconsolable, but we're just going to go to a quick break. We will be back with you right after these messages.
Welcome back live to Le Mans, looking here at the car that lies in third place in the LMP2 category. Ray Mallock bringing his Lola Coupe back again this year, but with a change of engine from the AER turbo motor to the HPD Honda Performance Development engine, and that seems to have really transformed, well, the pace of the car, but not necessarily their fortunes. Lots of little niggles. I mean, how many times do you hit a rabbit in a race, Liz Halliday?
Well, certainly I know my co-driver hit a groundhog once at Petit Le Mans. Did a lot of damage. It was very expensive. It was a big, sturdy groundhog.
Did he keep having to hit it every lap?
No, I think he pretty much obliterated it. It was messy. Yeah, I don't recommend it. Not nice.
No, so the RML team on for another podium. They've been very successful in the LMP2 category. They are third at the moment in LMP2. Second, Jean Charuz is at the wheel of the Oak Racing Pescarolo Judd, and again, change of engine. Again, once more away from the master engine for that team has changed their fortunes around. They've been very quick, those three young guys. Had a couple of problems, but other than that, have been consistently running towards the front of the class. And the class leader is still the Stracker Racing car. Danny Watts driving it. GT1 second place car, Jerome Policon, has just come off pit road. And the Brook Laddie team as well. Now, they've been coming here for a number of years, the Brook Laddie team, and they seem to have run into all sorts of problems over the years, and they have gradually, well, as I suppose everybody does, work hard to eliminate the problems, work hard to eliminate the human error, work hard with the car to get it stronger and stronger. And this is properly a sort of privateer entry, isn't it? Karim Oj, Tim Greaves and Gary Chalandon, who's the sort of last-minute addition to the team. They're Janetta Zytek, and we heard from Lawrence Tomlinson a couple of times during the race that he's, come over here looking at three Janettas. Nigel Mansell, Leo Mansell, Graham Mansell's car went out very early, Jeremy, but that little Brook Laddie car, which has been very much under the radar, has stayed that way, and that's almost the secret, isn't it? You finished, yeah? Oh, right. What happened to you? I don't think we ever saw you. No, thank the Lord.
Yeah, we've seen it a few times, but generally it's been off the road. They crashed with the warm-up, didn't they? They repaired the car after that. They had another incident last night at some stage. But you're right, they kept soldiering on. They've never given up. They've turned again. I think, you guys have talked about it. They're turning their own sort of consistent pace, whatever they're comfortable with. And they're going to end up, aren't they, with a top 10 finish overall at Le Mans. Crikey.
And do you know who else is going to, it's looking like, I don't want to give the commentator curse here, but who might have a top 10 finish with two cars is Pescarolo Chassis. We know Pescarolo's not here this year. I've talked about this a lot because I have a huge amount of respect for Omri. I'm very sad he's not here this year. 40 years he's been coming to this race in some aspect or another, either as a driver or a competitor as an entrant. But I think it's wonderful and a bit of a tribute to him if two of the chassis can finish in the top 10, and they're LMP2 cars as well, finishing in the top 10, not a small feat.
And Oak Racing, a very French team as well, originally run by Serge Saunier, of course, Saunier Racing, who is now overseeing the Peugeot program, and he decided he would sell on the team, which then renamed itself as Oak Racing when he joined the Peugeot squad. Yes, so Pescarolo Chassis, and as I said, the change to Judd Motors has really made a big difference to them. They came here last year with a two-car effort, looked sharp, worked sharp, and got let down by the machinery. This year they've come back with a better package overall. Ricardo de Villa, who's overseen the design and development of those cars over the years through their various twists and turns, I think will be feeling very happy at the end of it. That team have done a really good job, and again, a very French success. Pescarolo is synonymous with Le Mans, and certainly the Oak Racing team are really doing Henri proud, and of course he's here with our French colleagues chatting about the race as well as part of the French Eurosport commentary team. So here, certainly in person, and being represented, I think, very admirably in spirit as well in that LMP2 class. And again, both their cars likely now to finish in the top 10 with the unfortunate demise of Aston Martin 009. Well, Audi still have a 1-2-3 stranglehold on this race. But my goodness, if there's any more drama, can we please just make it a little drama somewhere? I'm not sure any of the three of us can really take much more heartache going on. Tom Christensen, well, he's been through the mill a number of times. He's seen the highs and the lows. What does he think?
Tom Christensen, you look quite relaxed. 40 minutes to go.
Yes, it has been an amazing race. Until now, 40 minutes to go. It's still some way, but of course was very tough pictures to see the last. You can say one's pain, the other's gain. That's Le Mans. Here, it's all about tragedy, triumph, and this is sometimes. So for Hugh, I have I feel a lot with him for what happened 20 minutes ago.
You are running in P3 at the moment, but what is happening in the minds of the guys in the car number 9? You had it 8 times that you were in the last hour, and you thought about the victory. What is going through their minds now?
They will control it. They are incredibly. The 2 out in the back cannot control themselves, and Timo was doing a good job in the car. He will drive it perfectly to the finish and go through the mind. It's a concentration of very positive adrenaline, and they will hopefully deservedly win this year's yacht race.
Do you think it would ever be possible to have 1, 2, 3 for Audi this year?
I didn't think that would be possible, no, but I knew that we had a car we could race with that speed through the entire race. Of course, for us personally, I was involved in an incident which put us, at that time we were the leading Audi, but that's Le Mans. As I said, it can be good, it can be bad, but that certainly cost us the chance. But we had a feeling that Peugeot could not, or we understood that they could not deliver that power through the whole race. And of course, maybe they want to have an advantage and then maybe tune down the engines, I don't know. But for sure, when they came from the back, they needed to push too much, and I don't know. But for us, of course, it's more than we definitely expected in that sense. But I think it also shows that you can say, yeah, we are lucky, but you can also say, yes, we believed in our car to do a good result, and we concentrated on that. We didn't overreact in many ways. We concentrated on delivering a solid job, and then you can say on top of that, we are lucky or not, it doesn't matter. But I also said before, every Le Mans, that the car which wins Le Mans is the best car. The car which wins Le Mans is the best car.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the chocolate bar and coffee. I think it will be champagne later.
Thank you.
Oh, food and drink. Oh, there's a good idea. Well, that's a strange idea. Audi first, second and third. Well, I think Tom summed it up very well there. You know, you don't win by luck alone, but certainly you do need some luck. But I'm sure Peugeot believe in their car as well. Welcome back to Le Mans live on Eurosport. 35 minutes of the great race to go. Let's get down to the pit lane, catch up with Ferrari's Jean Alesi. It's been a while since we've been able to say that, hasn't it?
Jean Alesi, your car is running in P4 at the moment in the GT2 category. A good start here for Giancarlo and you as an almost rookie. You were here once before.
Yes, not too bad. We were second before we lose a pad on the braking system. So Giancarlo was really lucky to bring back the car without having any kind of big damage. But we have to work on the car for 20 minutes, so makes all our chance away.
It took a long time for you to come back to Le Mans, but will we see you next year again? Did you get the taste now real?
The taste, yes, I have it now. For next year, I don't know, but definitely if Ferrari happy to do it, next year we're going to have a new car, why not?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's a valid point, actually, Jeremy Shaw, because the Ferrari F430 has been a really good GT2 racer for Maranello, but it's already been superseded as a road car, and we have been told, a number of drivers have said that the, was it 569, which is the next one that's coming along, or 465, or 5, I don't know, anyway, is already being developed as a racer, so we can expect to see Ferrari take another step forward in the way that the 430 was a big step up on the 360. So, again, stakes being raised in all these classes by the manufacturers.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it's not going to be as long again before we see Jean Alesi in real sports car race. I remember seeing it at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, actually, having Jill Campbell here driving that F40 for Jean Sage, of course, many years ago. That was a great thrill to see Jean there. He had an absolute blast driving that car. And yeah, you know, whatever Ferrari does in any kind of racing, it's the real deal. So it'll be an exciting program that we will hopefully be seeing the fruits of before too long.
Now, we heard from Nick Leventis earlier saying that the Straka team had to come in for one more short fuel. It's a 30-minute stint remaining, so I imagine that Danny Watts will stay in the car. Doesn't seem to be any reason particularly why he wouldn't. That car currently lying in 5th position. Don't forget, it is our LMP2 class leader and also leading our Michelin Green X Challenge category as well. Jean Charest second for Oak Racing in the Pescarolo Judd. Third, Lola with a HPD engine. Mike Newton will take the flag in the number 25 RML car. Fourth in LMP2 is Jacques Nicolet in the second Pescarolo Judd for Oak Racing. Great result for them. Fifth coming down pit road, the Ginetta of Gary Chalandon that we talked about a little earlier, that Team Brook Laddie car, and that looks like having a really good finish. Sixth in P2 is the Radical of Pierre Bruno. The 56th entry is still going. They've had a really good run. And seventh, the Ginetta of Olivier Pla, the Kiefel ASM car. The Cellini brothers still running, and we do expect to see the Highcroft car out. Franck Montagny there showing the disappointment when his engine cried enough early this morning, just into the daylight hours. And actually, in all cases, it was between the old signalling post and Indianapolis where the engines went. So something in the pit stop followed by long runs at high speed. Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunately the equation that they weren't able to match. And it's interesting, you know, Tom Christensen saying, no, we couldn't have expected with the way that things looked after practice to finish 1, 2, 3, but we believed in our car. We came here with as much as we knew how to produce. Well, you know that Peugeot had exactly that feeling, Jeremy. I don't think they came here thinking, well, it'll only do 9, but we're going to push it to 11. Sure, having to come from behind in the end didn't help, but they started off going in front, and it wasn't necessarily the coming from behindness of it, I think, that caused those failures. It's just, you've got to have Audi's experience to really be able to you know, plan quite as well, and Peugeot are building that. I mean, they won last year, and now the heartbreak of almost seeing a victory snatched away from each one of their cars that could easily have won.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, every one of those 4 cars, any one of those 4 cars could quite conceivably have won this motor race, and at one time or another they were all in position to do so. So it's going to be just makes it even more heartbreaking when everything slips away at this final juncture with just, you know, inside the final few hours. It was about 7:15 this morning when Franck Montagny's engine let go. It was whenever it was last night, that it was even yesterday evening, wasn't it, that the number 3 car fell by the wayside, the pole sitting car, with that suspension pulling out of the tub. That was a really surprising one. Well, no, that was utterly surprising on its own, but then to have 3 Peugeot turbo diesel engine failures within what, 3 or 4 hours of each other, nobody expected that one.
Well, what we're seeing now is a lot of drivers just looking after their cars a bit, just making sure they bring it home. This is such a stressful time. We are now just within the last half an hour of this 24-hour race, and it is a really tough time to be the driver, to be the team. You're just sitting there begging the checkered flag to come every single lap. You're getting that much closer, because it's not over until you actually cross the line, especially at Le Mans, as we all know, and it's a really tough time here.
Well, this is always a really tough part of the race as well. For people who've been asleep during the night and sort of maybe tuning in after breakfast and you know, watching during the course of the day, it's always really hard to try and build it up to the finish, because actually at the end, basically, the last hour and a half is tears and prayers. There's almost nothing else. Now look at this. Synchronized fueling. Have they all really been on on the same stop, or did they just decide to get them in all as one? Every single man in overalls is on the pit road for Audi. I don't see there'll be tyres, but there will be a pit stop, and all the guys are, there are tyres ready for the 9 car.
I think they're not taking any risks right now. The last thing Audi needs to do is get a puncture right now and have a problem. So no risks at all. There's no gaps here that they need to worry about. Nobody is going to take over their lead.
And look at the order in which they're coming into the pit lane. 9, 8 and 7, that's exactly their order leading out towards the pit exit, so that lessens the chance of anybody running into each other as well.
Absolute safety is what they're looking at right now.
Amazingly, yes, that's the way their garages line up, with 9 at the far end, but that's the way they are in race order as well, so you know, they don't even have to shuffle around.
But the other thing we're probably going to see is they'll still do a good pit stop, but they're going to take their time a little bit. I don't think they're going to go nuts if they are putting tyres on something. Oh, they're not. We saw them setting up tyres. They must have given them a check and thought they're going to be okay.
The Michelin engineers will have looked at each of their respective cars. Each car has an engineer, and they'll have all gone, no, thumbs up all round. But of course, you generally don't see the one that gets you. Nonetheless, Audi have completed what seems to be their final stop. Audi lie 1, 2, 3 here at Le Mans with 27.5 minutes to go. Car number 9 with Timo Bernhard at the wheel heads the trio of R15 pluses down through the S's de la Chapelle, and he's a lap ahead of Benoit Chalouier, who's there in the second car in second place, number 8, and 3 laps ahead of Dindo Capello with the yellow highlights there on the car, the third of the trio of Audi R15s in third position. And quite remarkable that while we've been watching the dramas from everybody else, they have been gradually slowing up, speeding down, concertinaing together so they can run the last half hour nose to tail. And it's not as if, you know, one's third, one's 9th and one's 27th and they're just ganging up. They are where they are, first, second and third. And now, yes, the lap times will drop right down. Look at the in-lap. 3:43.6, 3:43.9, 3:43.0. So
some 20 seconds a lap slower than they've been able to do, but absolutely no one needs to be. Yeah, but even on their in-laps, we've been seeing incredible times for most of them. So nobody needs to be a hero at this stage in the race. They know that there's nothing to gain, or well, there's all to lose, but nothing to gain really by going any quicker. So they're just going to be looking after the cars, probably not really running over the curbs much anymore. We're going to see that as well. Do not get a puncture, look after it, bring it home. Those are going to be the team orders, and bring it home together, boys.
On the grey stuff in the middle, in between the white lines, just like you would normally drive down a public highway.
Exactly, just a little bit quicker maybe.
And if you have to wait for an intersection, now then, 007 is going.
That does have a puncture.
That does have a puncture. Now, we've seen an awful lot of punctures. That's one of the few right rear tyres we've seen go down. Lots of left rears here. And
I hope he just keeps it really nice and quiet on this puncture, so that no extra damage is taken.
He knows he could give away a finish here. Stefan Mucker, bad enough to have a tyre go down. You don't want to make it any worse. If you have to creep round at speed limiter speed, you will do exactly that. He's just taken it over from Adrian Fernandez just recently. That car lying in 6th position, 5th in P1, and Andy Merrick in 4th, of course, in the Oreca AIM. Nominally a Judd engine, or nominally an AIM, but originally a Judd engine with different architecture in the heads. That car lying in 4th is the best of the petrol cars.
And I think we will see them put tyres all round on that car when it comes in, just to make sure that everything is going to be perfect to get through the finish. This is the last remaining Lola Aston Martin on the track. We saw that huge tragedy with the Sam Hancock car earlier with the engine going. That was running in 4th place. This car still has a chance to finish in 6th, which would be a very strong finish after the gearbox problems they had. Absolutely. So they're going to be looking after that car absolutely to the last minute.
Well, let's talk about some of the other classes as 007 comes down pit road. Looks like he's done a good job with that, and lots of heartbreak in the Peugeot garages. The GT2 class started out as an absolutely epic battle. We had Corvette versus Ferrari versus Porsche versus BMW versus Aston Martin, but in the end, even the best of the Corvettes got tangled up in a traffic accident, didn't it, this morning, and that has gone Corvette's hopes of winning GT2 on their first appearance in the class, as they've won GT1, GT1 over the years a number of times have gone, and GT2 now being led by Porsche. Mark Lieb in the Felbermayr Proton car is the leader. He shares that with Richard Lietz and Wolf Hensler, which is among the stronger driver lineups anywhere. Second place though, Jeremy, and this is a really big story for them, and particularly when I tell you the name of the team. Lee Keen in the number 89 Ferrari, sharing with Dominic Farnbacher and Alan Simonson. Good driver lineup, but it's the Hankook element that is the big difference. Hankook Tyres sponsoring that team, sponsoring that program, and they have gone from learning to competing, and now they're going to end up on the podium here at Le Mans, which is a fantastic testament to the work and development that the tyre company has put into that program.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's a 3-year-old car, of course. It raced in the American Le Mans Series a couple of years ago. They had a very strong run here 1 year ago, and like the Falcon Tyres team in North America over the last couple of years, they've sort of put a toe in the water, and then they're going after a full-on program. And this year, boy, that car has been strong. We've talked about it already. It finished second in the Spa 24 Hours behind the BMW, and to come here again and come away with another second place finish. Second isn't first, but it's a heck of a good result for just a one-car program. You don't get an awful lot of development data when you're only running one car.
That's a hell of a deal. 238,000 plus spectators here, most of them getting in the way this morning when I was trying to get back in after having a snooze.
And the other half getting in the way when we tried to leave last night.
It's 5 kilometres to the house, and it takes an hour and a quarter to get in on race day. It's really quite... all right, we shouldn't complain. And listen, third in the GT2 class as well. We talked about this car a couple of times. BMS Scuderia Italia's Porsche. You can hardly say BMS Scuderia Italia without adding the word Ferrari on the end, but now we have to say Porsche. Small team, Marco Holzer, Richard Westbrook, Timo Scheider, talented driver lineup, but Richard Westbrook was saying, the cars just can't get out of its own way at the beginning of the race. I'd be interested to speak to him afterwards and see whether it did loosen up and start to produce a power. He said he had no torque at all. They were winding off the wing, and yet, much against his expectations, he's going to be standing on the podium likely as not at the end of this race.
Yeah, but he did say, didn't he, when we spoke to him last night, the handling of his car was absolutely magnificent. I mean, it's a brand new team. They've never run a Porsche before, first time out, and there they are running with a perfectly handling car. That says a lot in of itself. And as you say, 3 very talented drivers in there. None of them have raced here at Le Mans before, amazingly, despite the fact they're enormously accomplished drivers, all 3 of them, and they've had just three punctures, I think it is, in that car. It might be 4 actually, because there's another one not too long ago.
Right.
So it might be 4 punctures, and again, we talked about it before, a lot of punctures are being during this event, but aside from that car has run absolutely beautifully.
And again, punctures, generally speaking, it would seem this year aren't necessarily something the team can do too much about. Even if you stay off the curbs and never hook a wheel over the edge, somebody else can easily bring gravel and debris on, and debris is the tyre's worst enemy, isn't it?
Well, we're seeing Mark Lieb now in the number 77 car. He's going to bring that Porsche home in the lead, hopefully. I'm not sure when the last time Porsche won the GT2 class. I think it was at least 3 years ago, at least.
I would think you might well be right.
And I think it's a pretty special thing for him to be right there.
I'm sure that Uwe Schonach's phone will be full of messages of condolence over the next few weeks, but also congratulations, because his own team, his Orica AIM program, is going to end up as the best petrol car behind the trio of Audis. Of course, the same raft of sponsors that's on their Peugeot that have been supporting Hugh through all his programs for years. When he was running the Celine as well, were with him. So, I mean, that's a great result for the team based here in the Techno Park at Le Mans.
And just harking back to what you talked about there, the last time the Porsche won the class here at Le Mans, you have to ask Richard Lietz that, because he was part of the team.
All right, okay,
in 2007, it was the IMSA Performance Matmut team that won that race. It was Raymond Rack, Patrick Long, and Richard Lietz. So, in the intervening 2 years, it's been all Risi Competizione, but the Porsche, they have a massive history here, of course, and they are going to be thrilled to come away with another class victory.
And into the pits comes the leading GT1 car, the last first time we will ever see a GT1 car take the checkered flag here at Le Mans. So this is a special moment for the fans. I hope everybody has a look. And it is really the granddaddy of the GT1 class that is looking solid to take the lead, or to take the win, rather. They're quite a few laps ahead of the next car, which is another grandfather. It's an old 6-year-old, in fact, Corvette of Jerome Polican driving that. And then we have last remaining GT1 and also in third place is going to be the Aston Martin DBR9. So we have lost quite a few GT1 cars. It's only 3 remaining, so really, as long as all 3 finish, they are secured a podium, and they've been that way for a while.
It won't be too embarrassing a podium.
No, you know what? I would take any podium spot at Le Mans quite happily.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, Liz, you know, you've already said it. As a driver, as a team, just being running when the checkered flag falls is a monumental achievement. Let's not underplay that in any way, shape or form.
No, finishing the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2006 was definitely the biggest moment of my life, and it was a struggle, and we had a hard time. I think we had 46 pit stops or something ridiculous, but we managed to finish 4th in class, and it is an enormous feeling to stand on the pit wall and say, we've done it, and watch your car come over the line. It's making me emotional thinking about it.
What are the 2 words you're thinking about, Jeremy? I'm thinking Paul and Drayson right now.
Yeah, and I'm feeling for them right now. And Lord Paul Drayson is in that car as we speak.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was the whole goal coming in here, start and finish the race. And yeah, he's unfortunately not going to be classified as a finisher, which again I think is just really sad. But he is going to reach the finish of this race, it would appear, with 18 minutes to go. They've been running, you know, reasonably well now for the last hour or so at least, having had all sorts of difficulties. The handling of the car they never really did get right, but they battled their way. And for Paul, it'll be, you know, we've seen the emotions at every end of the spectrum, haven't we, within the last hour or so. I know we're going to see it from that Drayson Racing bunch down there. And also, you know, you just talked about the Saleen guys. I mean, boy, the Labour competition team, they had that entry turned down, didn't they, a year ago? They weren't even here part of the race because the ACO didn't think they were suitable for whatever reason. Well, they've come back this time around, and they're going to come away with a win, unless anything really weird happens.
Well, interestingly, we remember, I think we chatted about earlier about that new ECU regulation that's been in that GT1 World class, where every car had to run off the same ECU, and every GT1 car that came to Le Mans this year had a petition done to try not to have to run that ECU unit, except for the Saleen. They were the only ones, for some reason, no one seems to know why, that were absolutely fine with that ECU program. They've had no trouble this year with it, and they were the only ones that said, no, we'd like to keep it, please. And I do wonder if maybe that has helped destroy some of the other GT1 cars, but at least we've still got enough running to fill a podium, so I do hope it happens that way, because it would be very sad to have it half empty.
Yeah, it really would be, actually. And for Laurent Berville, Julien Canal and Gabriele Gardel, I mean, 3 experienced but enthusiastic amateur drivers, you'd have to say. What an achievement to stand on the podium at Le Mans, never mind on the top step.
And Julien Canal, he's from Le Mans as well, so, you know, even more significance for him.
Well, just 27 years old, Laurent Berville, 44. Gabriele Gardel, former multiple FIA GT race winner, predominantly in 550 Ferraris in his earlier career, I guess 5 or 6 years ago, but the Swiss driver with a Saleen, very different kind of car, and of course one that he will have raced against. Now here, looking at Paul Drayson, Paul Drayson has all the hallmarks of a 5-year-old who's somebody given 2 cans of Red Bull to, hasn't he? The adrenaline, somebody needs to have an anti-adrenaline shot that they can give to Paul, because he's like a helium balloon bouncing up off the ceiling every time he gets in the car. I think he's suddenly discovered here, I mean, he's had the bingo moment where suddenly he's discovered what the car can really do. That's what it was all designed for. And you know what? You know, great to come here, race through a couple of trials and tribulations and get a finish. I don't think any one of the team would have expected to have had to have done a ground-up restoration project on the car. You know, 3 or 4 times through the entire team they've had to replace a fuel line inside the fuel tank, which is buried inside the monocoque of the car. They had found a broken suspension. They had all sorts of problems with the suspension front and rear, shock absorbers going. I mean, almost everything on the car, possibly apart from the steering wheel coming off in your hands, has gone wrong, and yet, despite its reluctance to ever appear from the garage, they keep pushing it out and making it go around the track, and in the end, they're going to win.
Well, Well, this is going to be a big testament to that team as well. And actually, I've got to give a big thumbs up to some of those guys, because quite a few of them were on my 2006 car that had so many pit stops that they had to hold together to help that finish a race as well. And a lot of those guys are working on that specific number 11 Lola Judd. So they've been here before and they know how to pull it through the ropes and keep it going to the end.
Well, we talked about alligator wrestling. If you blink, it gets you. Well, this is the same with Le Mans, and they are just beating this car with sticks until it refuses to misbehave and gets back out on the track. And
Paul will be smiling all the way through it all.
That's as great a story in its way as Audi's story is going to be as well.
And the same goes for the Sonoris Spiker squadron as well. They've had all sorts of problems as well. And I'm just trying to do some math here. I reckon they are just going to squeak in the 70%, probably on the lap, I reckon.
Really?
Yeah, if the race finishes
fantastic.
now, so as long as you don't get lapped too many times in the next couple of minutes or so, I think they can get to be a classified finisher. And again, we've seen the car off the road, they've had various mechanical problems, but they've completed, 275 laps.
They might just be lucky because Audi has tailored back their time so much. They may just make it, like you say. I don't think they'll get lapped too much, so I will make a lot of hopes for them that they do, because it's horrible to fight so hard and not be classified.
Yeah, lots of stuff crossed for them, because they come every year, work really hard on what is obviously a tiny budget compared even to their rivals. Porsche not exactly short on background when they're building their cars, and of course they sell so many customer cars as well. That helps fund the development program, and you got them, you're up against the might of BMW and Corvette and a tiny Spiker concern, very proudly Dutch, and they really pushed themselves to the limit to try and make this race. BMW incidentally will get one car to the finish. Augusto Farbs is currently at the wheel of the white number 78 car, which is 256 position in GT2, and again with all the programs they're running this year, from a ground up start in December where they were given a clean sheet of paper and a big thumbs up, the Schnitzer team have done a fantastic job. Lost the art car yesterday unfortunately, but the number 78 car looks like it is going to finish the end of the race in the packed GT2 team lineup. However, that has now been scythed through enormously by the marker of doom. There's only 7-8 cars in the end still running in that big GT2 class, so for all their pace and ostensible reliability, just like everybody else, Le Mans has cut a swathe through them this year. And sometimes you see that, with the really shocking weather, you get spates of crashes and so on. We haven't had a drop of rain since morning warm-up, or since before morning warm-up. Hasn't been a damp patch on the track apart from a couple of fluid leaks. And yet, it's back down to race pace being so relentless that if you survive, you've done a great job, and 'twas ever thus.
And who would have thought we'd see 10 LMP2 cars running at the finish of this race? I think if you could have got pretty good odds on that at the beginning of the weekend.
Well, I'm wondering if that's some kind of record as well.
I think it must be. And the top finishing one is looking strong to finish in 5th place overall. I'm not sure if that's ever happened, has it?
Well, only in short races where the lighter, LMP2 seems to have had good runs. But yeah, I mean, in American Le Mans Series racing, we had overall wins from P2 Porsches, but only on tight street tracks. I mean, that was the tighter tracks. That was very much a different kettle of fish. Out of Corvette corner comes our GT2 class leader, Mark Lieb. He shares with Richard Lietz and Vol Pensler the faster of the pair of Felbermayr Proton Porsches, but the sister car is right there as well. That's the 88, and not sure if it's Horst Felbermayr Senior or Junior at the wheel. They share that car with Miro Konopka. Well, is there any team owner or team boss we haven't seen in tears now? Wolfgang Ulrich really can't believe it. I think that probably sums up a little bit the spirit at Audi at the moment. We didn't expect to win this race. We expected to race hard and give it everything we've got, but he there as well with a tear in his eye, because this is turning into quite a remarkable race. The turnaround from the start and from the early moments of disappointment with Christensen's car being caught up in that confusion with Andy Prio's BMW and going off the track. What a turnaround for Audi. If you'd said to Tom Christensen, don't worry mate, you'll be on the podium, he would have just looked at you with incredulity. Mark Cole, it's been a remarkable story, this race, all the way round.
It has, absolutely. I've been doing the maths while you guys have been winding up, but He just raised about the highest ever placed LMP2. If the checker flag goes out now, this is going to be it in 5th place. Highest previous was RML in 2006. They finished 8th, and
right,
Essex Porsche, they finished 10th in 2008. So this is a very, very good performance by Straka. Remember, British team, British car, British crew, US engine. Okay, British Cypriot crew, one of the US engine. We've also just passed the lap record, the all-time lap record on this circuit, 394 laps. Jaguar in 1988, and that was with the full Mulsanne straight. Right. So we've just gone past that. We will have done in a moment. Just to go through the maths again, P1, Audi, this will be their 9th win. Yep. If you include Bentley, which was run by Just with Audi underneath that green Bentley body, then that would be their 10th. P2, the Honda's first. Not the first time Honda's been to Le Mans. They ran NSX GT1 cars, 94, 95, 96, but never with any success. Mazda's won this race, Nissan's been here, Toyota's been here, but this will be a first for Honda, this success. GT1, Celine have never won before. Nope. And they will never win again.
Indeed, yes. I mean, what a window of opportunity. Yeah. They got their hand in just before it closed.
And finally, Jeremy is spot on about Porsche. The last Porsche GT2 win was that IMSA Performance MacBook car in 2007.
Just to highlight that the Highcroft Acura HPD has left pit road. Marino Franchitti, who had a bit of a snooze in there for an hour or so, a few minutes or so, a couple of hours ago, has gone back out. They knew they had an overheating problem and could not turn many laps at a time. With 8 minutes to go, they'll probably get a couple in under their belts, and that will see them to line. And they should have done just enough to be classified as a finisher as well. But really tough break for them. But Liz, like everybody else, you've got to come and learn and polish your art. You don't expect to win your first ever motor race anywhere. Sometimes you can. You don't expect to.
Well, I have to say, certainly team owner Duncan Dayton has experience at Le Mans. He drove with me at Le Mans in 2006, and he's a very good peddler himself, very quick in a historic car and in a prototype. So he certainly knows what this game is all about. But it is the first time the car has been here. It's the first time the engine has been here, and it was always going to be, a bit of a toss-up, I suppose. Everyone thought they would be the favorite. I thought they would be the favorite, actually. The drivers certainly knew how to do the job, but sometimes it's just Le Mans luck, and some of the HPDs have made it and theirs hasn't, and like we say, that's Le Mans.
Well, the guys in that Audi pit know all about winning and losing, and as Peugeot do now. Interestingly, actually, there was a film made about Peugeot's Le Mans program last year that started in January. The head of the engineers phoned all his colleagues up and got them round to his house for a pizza evening one night and a bit of a film. And they watched Audi's film, 24 minutes, of the win in 2008. And the camera shots afterwards really quite telling. They all sat down in his lounge, they all watched the film, and at the end of it, when it finished, it was total silence. And then they interviewed the engineer afterwards, and he was saying, do you know what? They really look like they enjoyed that. We're going to have to try and see what that feels like. But it was really interesting for them to have come so close. They nearly won, and then to see Audi win it, and to see that from the other side, how it looked, how it felt, the emotion, and how everybody was, that gave those engineers then, in the build-up to the 2009 race, a sense of what it would be like. And they managed to hold on to that. And this year they knew what it was like, but something in the engineering let them down. It's quite interesting, I thought earlier on, Tom Christensen saying, we believed they couldn't keep that pace up. Now, not because their drivers couldn't keep that pace up, or the tyres wouldn't last, or traffic wouldn't allow. I sort of had the sense that they thought that Peugeot were overextending the engine in some way, because that's the only real difference between last year and this. And maybe their engine guys had just figured that it wouldn't be possible to produce that speed from that basic rule package for long enough, but they came down close.
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Liz. just to say that you don't forget Audi started off on the back foot as well. They wanted to race at Sebring. New car wasn't ready. They wanted a derogation to use last year's R15, but ALMS was absolutely adamant, no, you've got to run to the new regs. And so they weren't able to do that race. Okay, they went testing instead, but as the old adage goes, there is no testing like racing.
Well, I think we saw Audi pushing hard through this race. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But we never saw them panic. And we never saw them, you know, they knew the Peugeot was coming. Yeah, only maybe just the once. But they knew Peugeot was coming, but we never saw them really overextending it and throwing the car off the line and overdoing it. So that just says to me, maybe they did genuinely believe in their heart of hearts that they could win this because they were making Peugeot push so hard. Maybe they thought they're not going to last.
Well, there are two options, aren't there? Either when you see the pace of your rivals, you pack everything into the truck and go home and start thinking, or you race what you've got, and that's their option. And of course, because they're Audi and because they're quality driver lineup, they were racing flat out every corner of every lap, because that's all you can do. All you can do is go with what you've got. And if it was enough, it was enough. If it got a podium, it got a podium. None of them surely would have expected that they might have ended up winning the race, and without a question, there's not a single person in that garage that thought, yep, we're on for a clean sweep of the podium. I don't care how quick they are, we've got what it takes.
Definitely
they knew what they had.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the drivers were saying after practice, everything that the designers have said the car should be able to do, we're able to get to those benchmarks. We're setting the times they said we could. We're getting everything out of it. If that's not enough, okay, that's not enough.
That's exactly the point I'm making, is they did what they knew they could do, and they never went nuts. They never went beyond the barrier of what they knew they could do. They always pushed very, very hard, but they never took ridiculous risks they didn't need to take.
Well, I think you can say the same about Peugeot, Mark, that they weren't, you know, rally crossing the car over every chicane or anything else. They knew they had a very quick car, and they really pushed hard. Now, the problem for them really was they got beset by a few little problems, and then when you're having to play catch-up, that's when it started to go wrong. But not all the engines that went were in cars that were busy playing catch-up or necessarily trying to chase from behind. So, I don't know, I'm still not convinced. I think the Peugeot will find that there's a fairly fundamental flaw in that car that racing has highlighted that testing wouldn't. And again, we get back to that thing. Think about the start of the race. If you sent your 4 Peugeots out at Paul Ricard in race simulation number 5, and they started trying to have each other off at every corner like they were at the beginning of this race, then they'd be called into the pits and told to stop being so bloody stupid because we're not going to get any data if all the cars are wrecked. But that's what happens in racing. You push way beyond what you're doing in a test, and in the end, that's where the frailty, human, mechanical, everywhere else, organisational, you know, are going to catch you out if they do. The other thing, of course, if a car breaks down in a test, you fix it and carry on, and you've learned something. If it breaks down in Le Mans, you push it away and you come back in 12 months' time.
Just going back to Le Mans, I think we might be on the last lap of this 24-hour race. I've seen the marshals coming out, the teams are coming out to the pit wall, the flags are waving, especially the flags of Audi, and what a completely amazing result. 1, 2, 3 for Audi. It's sure to be. The cars are lined up in their order. This is an incredible moment for the whole of the Audi team, isn't it?
Astonishing. Of all their wins, maybe this is going to be the most remarkable, because it's the one that was least signposted at the beginning of the weekend, the least expected, the most surprising of all. And you're right, they are on the Mulsanne straight for the very final time here at Le Mans, and the team now, of course, you know, all know what winning feels like, but from this start to this end, that's a very different path than they've ever gone down before, Mark.
Yeah, and this is going to be hugely satisfying for this man, Timo Bernhardt. He's Tom Christensen we talk about as the all-time Le Mans winner. There's 8 wins, but Timo Bernhardt, he has already won the triple. He's been very close to the Triple Crown, which is Daytona, Sebring and Le Mans. Well, he's going to pull it off today. Not only that, he is also a 2 times Petit Le Mans winner, a 4 times Nürburgring 24 Hours winner. Now he's going to add Le Mans to that. Thank you, Jeremy Shaw, for those figures. And what a driver, what an all-round endurance driver he has become today.
And of course, he's won in almost every category there is to win in, you know. So as a Porsche driver in the GT classes and in LMP2, and now in the overall victory as well. So he gets the chance to bring the car to the line, and really for Audi, quite remarkable. Mike Rockenfeller, last year, of course, crashed the car 2 years ago, crashed the car very heavily, thank you, Liz, and you know, must have been feeling an awful lot of weight on his shoulders after that, with Timo Bernhardt and Romain Dumas again, who end up with exactly the opposite feeling that they had, or that Mike had at Le Mans 2 years ago, from depression in the depths of his boots to the sort of elation that it's hard to imagine. Just saw Andre Lotter on the team, on the pit wall, his teammate Marcel Fassler, and Benoit Chalouier at the wheel will come in second place, and Tom Christensen, Dindo Capello, who's at the wheel, and Alain McNish will end up in third spot. And Wolfgang Ulrich, well, he's
flying the flag for Audi himself on the wall, looking tentatively over the side, waiting till they actually cross that line.
Wiping the tears away, and rightly so, because actually, do you know what? You know, this race again this year has taught everyone in the paddock that there is nothing taken for granted. I wouldn't mind betting it's going to rain quite soon as well, having stayed dry. But for Audi, what a remarkable, well, never mind for Audi, what a remarkable race. What a remarkable race, full stop. Maybe not one of the all-time great races to the checkered flag, or, you know, as close a finish as 1969 or any of that, but in terms of twists and turns, I think the script writers are digging even deeper into the Machiavellian draw as the years go by. Le Mans has always got so much to offer, but whoever would have put money on this Audi 1, 2, 3 in 2010, and more than that, no Peugeots finishing? Well, that would be the only way you could possibly have imagined it happening, but that's exactly the way it has gone. It's heartbreak for the French team, but it is delight for Audi. They are going to sweep the podium here at Le Mans.
Finish.
Absolutely incredible. And Wolfgang Ulrich himself was in tears 20 minutes ago, and I'm sure that everybody congratulates Audi, and everybody crossing the line there. A lot of our GT2 front runners are there. Lee Keen in his Ferrari, Richard Westbrook third in his Porsche, Mark Lee winning in GT2, and congratulations to Danny Watts bringing the Stracker car to the line as our P2 winner, and our GT1 win will go to the Celine Gabriele Gardel at the wheel of that car. There's Alain McNish, knows what winning and
we won them all.
Feels like
finally.
The winner of Le Mans 2010.
Thank you. It's unbelievable.
Trying to get the word with Rocky. He can barely hear. Romain Dumas is going to get down into the track and run to greet his teammates. There's their tyre engineer. Justine, you're on a sticky wicket there, I'm afraid. Trying to make any sense of the mayhem there for a few minutes is going to be tough. And Hugues de Schonack, well, do you know what? Just a little lifting of the spirits for him, particularly. Sure, his Peugeot dreams have gone, but his Oreca run AIM is going to be the best of the petrol engine cars. So for him, there is definitely a silver lining to this morning's cloud.
He can say he's beaten Aston Martin. That's probably as good a reward as anything, isn't it?
Yeah, and Aston Martin in 6th position, 5th in the P1 class. Stefan Mucker bringing the 007 car to the line that he shares with Harold Prima and Adrian Fernandez. But into Parc Fermé come not one, not two, but 3 Audis. Do you know, I think next year I must think of the most unlikely scenario anyone can imagine and get a couple of £100 on it, because that's the way this race works.
So much emotion we've had through this Le Mans. I'm not sure if I even remember, other than driving it myself, having so much emotion in a race like this. It's just been incredible. I don't think we could have picked it out if we tried.
And getting to the flag at some stage, we hope we will see Paul Drayson in the number 11 car. Hasn't made it around yet, as you see your race winner Timo Bernhardt. Well, Paul Drayson's car will complete 254 laps of the 397 lap race distance. And just remarkable scenes from Parc Fermé. Quite incredible elation for Audi. Goodness me, What emotion, what joy, what surprise perhaps for Timo Bernhardt. There's the Kiefel ASM car in the LMP2 class. BMW finishing with one of their 2 cars as well. We've just seen our GT1 winner come through with a Celine door open, waving at the team and the crowd. Here's Wolfgang Ulrich.
And I think fair play and the congratulations of Peugeot meant a lot to you today.
Yeah, this was really something very special because that's really sports. And I'm really proud that they came over to me because they had a really tough weekend. They have been very strong competitors. And it was really tough how they had to lose at the end. But in this situation, it shows a really sportsman.
In your wildest dreams, did you ever think you could sweep the podium here?
I mean, you dream of many things, but to dream of a triple with 4 such strong competitors, it would not have been realistic.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Well, there are years when Audi have dreamed of sweeping the podium, when they've been fastest in qualifying, they've had the best car, they've had the best team. This was definitely not one of those years. Wildest dreams, I think, bizarrest fantasies wouldn't even come close to what's happened this year. Still waiting for Paul Drayson to cross the line. We have seen the Acura of the Highcroft team finish, so Marino Franchitti brings that car to the line. It did chug around for the final lap. Still waiting for Paul Drayson's Lola Judd. Come on, and the Spiker has yet to make it to the line. So has the Ginetta of Karim Oj, and so too has Mike Newton's third in LMP2 RML. So we're waiting for that to take the checkered flag as well, because of course if you don't finish, you don't finish. Doesn't matter how many laps you have done.
Yeah, Danny Watts, by the way, has just taken the line. Not only has he taken the win in P2, but he's also won the Michelin Green Cross Challenge. That's a big award here. It's what was the old index of efficiency. It's the most number of miles covered on the least amount of fuel.
Okay, our final 4 finishers have all crossed the line. Ensemble, the Brookladdy Radical, the RML Lola, the Drayson Lola Judd, and finally the Spiker, the last car to take the checkered flag, not necessarily last in the classification, but you're seeing there again the pictures of Audi taking a remarkable win, and now everybody who possibly can will be swarming into the pit lane. And Liz, for every driver, the dream is to stand on that podium and look down at the sea of flags and faces and cheers and noise and just take in that emotion, and it will well over them. I've been in this room when Nishi won with Porsche, sitting there with the teams that are ready to go out onto the podium, and you can almost slice the emotion and put it in a jar. It's so overwhelming.
Well, it's certainly my biggest dream, and I think it is every other driver's dream. Certainly every driver that's ever been to Le Mans or ever dreams of Le Mans, dreams of standing on that podium. And I can barely find words whenever it finishes, and I just start thinking about what it would be like.
I think we need to have the finish at the beginning when we're fresh.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're tired and we just can't find any more words.
55 starters, 28 finishers. We don't yet know about the Drayson Lola, whether it will be classified or not. We have to wait and hear about that when the results come out. But that's 50% of the field, of the original field, 56 cars. That's all that's finished. That is a very high attrition rate this year.
And so much heartbreak. After 11 hours, or after 12 hours, only 11 cars had retired. But as soon as the light arrived, they all shrank away and failed to finish. There's Danny Watts.
That yellow helmet, of course, colours of Oxford United. He's their #1 fan. He was at Wembley 2 weeks ago, cheering them on to their victory, and here he is now. He is now the victor himself at Le Mans.
Big Man United fan as well, I gather. So he and Nick were offered a match just the other week. Well, you know, from Mark Lieb and from him and all the other guys, Dindo you saw there, Benoit Trelouillet and Timo Bernhardt. Goodness me. Race win at Le Mans. No wonder he needs a good swig. I think he's had a dry mouth for about the last 2 or 3 hours, if not longer.
Now, Liz, we were talking, weren't we, during qualifying? We said that things are swinging in favour of the younger guns now, and it's happened. It's the not only the younger guns of Audi have won, but it's the team that's been drafted in from Porsche.
Yeah, but let's not discount the ones who had a bit of a whoopsie accident early on that wasn't their fault at all, and they possibly could have been the ones winning this. So I think all three teams have done the best race they possibly could. I don't think anyone's better than the other.
Probably the most famous man in France, Jean-Claude Killy. We just saw there talking to Tom Christensen. Killy actually gave the green flag at the start of the race. I understand he also gave the checkered at the end, along with Daniel Poissonneau. He's congratulating the Audi team.
Well, the emotion is quite evident, and of course we know at the other end of the scale, for Sam Hancock and the crew in 009, for all the Peugeot crews, for everybody whose car has let them down here and all their hopes and dreams have evaporated in a puff of smoke or a puncture or a broken component. It is really heartbreaking, but again, you know, the stories here of the winners and also the also-rans, and you know, those you sort of look right at the very final car, Paul Drayson and his team, they have refused to give in, and that's how Audi got to where they are. Exactly the same approach. Refuse to give in, refuse to let the odds get to you. All right, in the end, Drayson and his car got what they wanted. They got the car to the finish. Whether it's classified or not for them will be entirely immaterial. They beat the car and the race. And here, Audi have done exactly the same. They have managed to do what they do and refused to take no for an answer. And somehow it's ended up with just the most magical result for the German team.
Daniel Poissonneau then, the race director of this race, no longer sporting director of the ACO, but he comes here every year to continue to run this race. It's his pride, his joy, and what a good job they've done this year. Despite the safety car problems, everything's really panned out, hasn't it?
Other than that, they've done a fantastic job. This has been a brilliant race. I'm just feeling quite emotional myself because I really do like all these guys at Audi. I've driven with virtually all of them, you know, throughout the years, and it's such a great finish for them, and they work so hard, and I do believe they deserve it. I feel very sad for Peugeot. I think it's been a horrible race for them, and nothing that should have come their way, but at the same time, this is a magical result for Audi, and a lot of hard work that's come to fruition.
You can see the tears as well of joy and relief, I'm sure, and I don't think you can be a racing fan without feeling both sides of it, without feeling so thrilled for the guys that win and so heartbroken for the guys that lose, because you can, whether you're a driver or a fan or a mechanic or none of the above, you can imagine yourself in both those positions, and it's very evident, the outpouring of emotion at the end of this race, and this race perhaps more than any other, just because everybody is so wrung out. Win, lose or draw, you've got nothing left at the end of this.
It's such a big build-up for Le Mans 24 Hours. You've got the whole week here and so much going on, and such a huge fan base. It's such a wind-up of emotion up to the top that, like you said, Martin, you're absolutely wrung out at the end, win, lose or draw, and there's just no other race in the world like it. I mean, I'm feeling a little bit like I'm struggling for words now. It's just awesome.
Motion creeps into the cabin. I have to say, not the most beautiful car that's ever won Le Mans, and there were hints early on that if it don't look right, it won't go right, but they've just completely disproved everything. So what? Yes.
Well, you know, who was it? I can't remember who said a few years ago, a winning car is always a beautiful car.
Exactly.
And you know what? Yeah, you know, you've got to give them a little bit of credit for that. It may have been a touch on the mutton chop side, but on the other hand, it did the job. Final moments of note comparing, and that's always interesting, isn't it? And then, and do you remember when, you know, immediately it starts, and especially with other drivers of other cars, of other classes, and so many of the thoughts will be shared in common, whether you've won or whether you've, you know, gone out after an hour. For Wolfgang Uhrich, yeah, this young team, what a moment, you know. Will they ever have a more dramatic race than this, you know, one that's come from nowhere and produce such a result?
I'm not sure if they will ever have a moment like this again. I think, I mean, even if they win again 1, 2, 3, I'm not sure if they will ever have the experience that they've had, where they truly didn't believe they could do it on pace alone. And I think somewhere deep down inside the hearts of all the Audi drivers, they knew they had a good car and they knew that they could bring it, but they did need something like this to happen to Peugeot. They knew they couldn't do it on speed alone. And I'm just remembering speaking to Timo Bernhard right before the start of the race, actually, and he was being very positive and very perky, but he just said, you know, the car isn't as fast, and all we can do is our best. And I think it's quite cool to now see him about ready to stand up on the top bit of that podium, and they have done their best, and it's been enough.
Well, out they come then, the Audi drivers that have won here. We said to Tom Christensen at the official reception when all the teams are welcome to Le Mans, are you comfortable with the car? He said, yes, of course. But we were comfortable with last year's car. And that question mark has hung in the air until right now, Jeremy Shaw. And now they come out not just with a podium, not just with 2 podiums, but with a clean sweep, something utterly unimaginable 4 days ago.
They've worked so hard on this program. I mean, this car, they came, as you just said, they came here last year thinking they were going to be in contention to win. They weren't. They came here on Wednesday for first qualifying, expecting to be in contention for the pole. They weren't. In fact, they were miles off on Wednesday. 4 seconds off the pace they were on Wednesday on a consistent basis. So, but what do? Do they hang their heads? Do they go home, or do they fight? They fight. Yeah, the engineers examine every little bit of data they've done. They've done a huge amount of preparation. They've done 24-hour tests. They've done the Le Mans Series races leading up to the Le Mans 24 hours. They've done everything they could possibly do. They all put their heads together, and they come back on Wednesday, and their car is significantly not only faster, but more comfortable and more consistent to drive. And that is what it takes to win the 24-hour race of Le Mans. A consistent, comfortable car.
It does, and also having consistent drivers that just keep putting in the times, do what they're told, follow team orders, and just constantly believe that they have a car that's good enough, and that they know that if they drove that car the way they were told they could, that it would keep running. And I think ultimately that's what's won the beast of Le Mans.
The German anthem rings out over the crowd here at Le Mans for our race winners. In the number 9 Audi, Mike Rockenfeller from Germany, Timo Bernhard, his compatriot, and Frenchman Romain Dumas. And behind them, team boss Dr. Wolfgang Ullrich, starting the tentative celebration, not the expected celebration, not the yes, we knew this was going to happen celebration, the where did that come from, almost disbelieving celebration. And no matter how hard they knew they could push their cars and how much they thought they had, was it ever going to be enough? I don't think it ever looked like it, but in the end, my word, it was a 1-2-3 result. Third place there with their trophies, Tom Christensen, Dindo Capello and Alan McNish. And the number of times these guys have stood on the podium is starting to really get into very serious record territory.
24.
Wow.
Yeah. 10 for Christensen, 8 for Capello, and 6 for McNish. Amazing.
In second place, Audi number 8, Andre Lotterer, Marcel Fessler and Benoit Treluyer. Again, a French man in the car. So 2 of the 3 Audi lineups with a French driver. And the race winners. The number 9 car, Mike Rockenfeller, Timo Bernhard, and another Frenchman, Romain Dumas. And Audi's Dr. Wolfgang Ullrich receives the winning manufacturer's trophy. 24 hours ago, you could have bet him anything you liked that he'd be up there, and he'd have been a little bit reluctant to take your money.
I'm thrilled, particularly, I think, for Mike Rockenfeller. I mean, redemption for him, isn't it? He came here, he's won here, of course, in the GT2 class with Alex Job Racing back in 05, still on the top step of the podium then for GT. But 2 years ago, he was given this great opportunity to drive for the factory Audi team, and he blew it. He crashed at least down at Truge, and he hung his head in shame for a while, personally, but everybody knew on that team how good that boy was, and they kept him. There he is. What a fabulous smile. Great to see. And what a great win for him. He set fastest lap in a DTM race with a completely uncompetitive car a week ago, and he comes out with his magnificent victory here.
Fantastic effort from all concerned. And you also have to say fantastic effort from their main rivals, the Peugeot Sport team. They put their hearts, their souls, their everything into it, and they came out with absolutely nothing. Not even a single car running at the finish. And for Audi, Liz, a fourth 1-2-3 result in 2000, 02, 04, and now 2010. It's been a long time since they've been dominant, and this will not be considered a year in which they were dominant, will it?
No, I think this will be the first of all of those 4 victories when they truly didn't think they could do it, or certainly didn't expect to do it. And you know, I don't think we can say that Peugeot came away with nothing, so to speak, because they did come away with a new lap record, a new race record, and I think just a record overall. They beat the qualifying record, so they certainly have not come away without trying and without achieving something.
Yeah, and arguably without Peugeot pushing so hard and really stepping up the game this weekend, we wouldn't have had this new distance record either that is being set, of course, by Audi. But Audi obviously likes the even-numbered years. 10 years ago, wasn't it, the 2000, they came here with the R8, and they were dominant then. Here they are 10 years later with the R15 Plus.
Absolutely. And what they bring next year, when they bring, not that trophy back, but, okay, everybody lift that together, or there'll be some striated hernias on the podium. The big baby, when they bring that back next year, what will they bring back with which to defend it? That is going to be one of the most fascinating stories, I think, of next year's Le Mans, where the rules take us, because this is definitely the end, not of an era necessarily, but certainly of a chapter here. And at the end, the final line will be, who would have thought it?
Let's not drop the trophy, guys, but what an incredible picture that is. That is not something they will ever forget.
No, absolutely. Of all Audi's wins here, this surely is the most unexpected, the most remarkable in terms of twists and turns, and just a phenomenal achievement. Well, what a moment to savour. You know, for the guys on the left, on the right of your picture, on the left of the podium, for Christensen, Capello, McNish, they've been there a number of times. Alan with Porsche, of course, back in 1989, long time ago, that really rejuvenated his career and put him on a stellar path. And Tom's getting ready to get the
priming up that champagne.
Oh, he's gone.
Those boys are going to be absolutely drenched.
And there's your experience. Audi celebrate here a remarkable achievement at Le Mans. 1, 2, 3. And just again, props to our P2 winners, the Straka Racing team. In GT1, Lager competition with their Celine. And in GT2, the Felbermayr Proton team with Porsche. Those are our winners in our 4 classes here at Le Mans 2010. What a race.